Hello, and welcome to Martinis and Bikinis, the podcast for everything under the sun. I am your hostess, Veronica Droulia, and I am here to help you navigate your 20s through all things lifestyle, beauty, and fashion. So, if you're ready, let's dive into today's episode.
So I want to stay in New York for October, November, and I'm Googling Airbnbs, I'm asking friends. The rates are crazy.
There's
so
an
the fact that
apartment
you
shortage.
get that opportunity, it's once in a lifetime.
Have you joined any Facebook groups?
No, I know that that's like the new way to do it, right?
Yeah, except some of them are scams. My friend is trying to come out here in the fall, actually from LA, and she wanted me to go to this open house to see if it was legit. And I went to the building. The doorman was like, "There's no open house during the week. I don't know what they're talking about." I asked if the person even lived in the building, and they were like, "We've never heard of this person before." And I was like,
"That's crazy."
Amazing. So
yeah, I have so many friends here, so I feel like when I'm actually ready to do it, something will pop up.
Yeah.
But yeah, from when I left in 2020 until now, the prices to even get a yearly rental are so much higher.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember I was looking for a studio, and I was looking downtown. It was like $6,000 for a studio.
And I remember in June of 2020, I could get, I think it was a 1,200 square foot one bedroom in the West Village for like $4,000 a month. And I was like, oh no, it was $3,500 a month.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And I was about to do it, but obviously I didn't. But now that same apartment is $7,000 a month.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Hopefully.
And I think it's supposed to like be cheaper in the summer too, which is, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I think September is definitely the worst month to get an apartment because
really
all the kids graduate from college that move into the city. Everybody comes back to the city in September.
Right.
Yeah.
I had a friend that said October was good, but I don't know. I feel like I've heard so many mixed things.
Yeah, what I'm saying is probably might not be true either. Who knows?
Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
I'm excited for our conversation.
Yeah, like we were saying before we got on camera, I was so upset that when we get a guest on the podcast, usually it's really great, but Hannah and Steve both had so many nice things to say about you that I was genuinely upset that I missed that
they had so many nice things to say about you and the fact that you're a Swiftie and all of your music taste. I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to be best friends.
Are you a Swiftie?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I'm not going to the concert, though. I'm trying to go to the one in New Orleans because she just announced new tour dates.
So we did a raffle for the app for Taylor Swift concert.
How did that
tickets.
go?
It went well, but I feel like people were literally doing anything for those tickets.
Yeah.
And if more people knew that we were raffling them off, we would have got a lot more traction.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to do it again because it's such an easy way to engage people because everybody wants those tickets. And I was kind of hoping no one would win so that I could go.
Yeah.
But obviously someone won and we gave them away.
Oh.
But yeah, Steve went.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I commented on his Instagram post. I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
He was having the time of his life.
He has a funny backstory to that, but I don't know if I could share it. But he just fell into that situation the day of. And
Of
I'm
course.
Just like, obviously.
Of course.
Obviously you do.
Oh, I'm jealous, but hopefully I'll be able to go.
Yeah.
But I actually downloaded the app last night. So if you...
Last night? Okay.
Yeah, last night. I know. I don't know why I didn't download it sooner, but I didn't realize it was here in New York. So that's why I was kind of hesitant at first. But then I was like, oh, okay, I need to actually check this out. But so you are the founder of First Rounds on Me.
Yes.
If you want to explain that a little bit more.
Yeah. So do you want me to tell you kind of...
Yeah, the story and what it's all about.
So I don't know how old you are, and I don't want to ask because I feel like
26.
Okay, it's appropriate. So you're a bit younger than me. I'm 33. And when I was 24, 25, that's when Tinder literally just started. So dating apps were
non-existent.
So new.
Yeah.
And when people first talked about it, it was kind of a stigma where if you told somebody you were on Tinder, they were like, all right, what's wrong with you? Why are you going to an app to meet people? Why don't you just go to the bar? So I was kind of that last age of people that grew up not knowing dating apps and then were the first use cases for dating apps. And we kind of were the test dummies for it. So I lived in the West Village. I would go out, and I'm more the old school way where if I see somebody that I'm interested in, I really like that rush of approaching them, and you don't know what could happen. They could either engage in the conversation and you could say, oh, I want to buy you a drink and see where the night goes.
Yeah.
Or they cannot be interested. And kind of that rush of the unknown is what I really liked about life. Just
yeah, the thrill.
taking your shot. Yeah. And when I moved to the city, I saw that it was a lot more common for even pretty women and good-looking men to meet on apps. So I was like, why, how and why did everybody gravitate towards these apps? Because it didn't seem natural to me.
Right.
So I was working in finance, and, you know, it was a great job. I was doing corporate bonds, and, you know, I thought it was my dream job. But there was no passion there, and I was like, do I really want to sit on this trading floor for the next 30 years and then just get fat and die? So I was like, no, I want to be an entrepreneur, but what do I know? And I said, okay, I know dating apps. Dating apps are new, and there's all these gaps in the market. So what I did, and this could sound sleazy, but it's not. I started to use the apps because that was just the way to meet people.
Right, because you didn't want to get fat and die.
Exactly. And every time I would go on a date with a woman, they would complain about dating apps. And I said, yeah, I don't like dating apps either. It seems like you don't need them. I don't like them. I don't think I need them. Why are we all on them? And then we would just talk about the flaws of dating apps. And this happened every single date. So I started to think, okay, I'm not going to be an asshole and use women for data, but I'm getting the same information from them, and I'm really trying to connect with them.
Yeah, your market research.
And it started to turn into market research. And then they were all saying the same thing. They were all saying, you know, guys talk to too many people at once, and I feel like they're not paying attention to me. And then they'll match with you and not set up a plan. And then I become pen pals with them. And I was like, okay. I was like, why has no one found this gap in the market and fixed it yet? So I had moved on from finance to tech, and I had more free time. I was working from home, and when the pandemic, I had this idea before the pandemic happened, but when the pandemic started, I was like, all right, the whole world shut down. This is a really good opportunity to just focus on this potential idea I had. So I literally wrote down on paper like what my ideal app would look like, and I showed a lot of women, and they're like, oh, this is amazing. This is like what we need. So I was like, all right. I Googled how to start an app, and when I did that, I was like, there's no way I could do this because starting an app is probably impossible. Little did I know. Now if you ask me that, it's not hard at all to start an app. No, like we can get into that, but it's not hard at all.
Yeah, see, I would think that it is.
No, and I think that's part of the issue with people in life in general is we think things are harder than they actually are.
Right.
But if you start the process, you realize it's not really that hard. So I just wrote it down. I had a really good friend that was a creative designer. I was like, listen, can you create designs for these words?
Yeah.
She made app frames. I was like, well, it's so cool. Then I found somebody who could make an MVP, most viable product. He made this MVP version of the app. And I was like, wow, there's an app here with my idea. Started showing people again. They said, this is amazing. And then I was like, all right, I moved out to LA, and I was like, let me try and raise some money. Showed some investors. They all loved it. And I just thought, I was like, why is this so easy? Why did no one figure this out before me? Got an investor, relaunched, rebranded, and here we are.
That's amazing. I feel like I've heard so many just mixed opinions about starting your own app, and a lot of noise, honestly. People saying that it's really expensive and there's a lot of liability and things like that. So hearing how it was almost very seamless for you is really interesting to hear.
Yeah, I don't want to oversimplify it. I would just say it's not as hard as people think.
Yeah.
And if you get to each step and each hurdle, it becomes easier and easier. Obviously, the challenges get bigger, but the bigger challenges means you're doing the right things.
Right.
But yeah, I think if anyone wants to start an app, just find someone who could make the
UX design.
Yeah, the design and the least functioning, most viable product. And then you're going to need to raise money if it's like a dating app because you need to market it.
Right.
But yeah, you just do it.
Well, I find that your app is very user friendly. It's
Thank you.
very branded well, but it's also very simple to use, which I think sometimes these dating apps, it gets so overly complicated that you're just your brain is all over the place. And I guess you kind of figure out that your whole reason for getting on the app is completely lost because you're still trying to navigate the app, right? So I like how it's very simple and branded well. And it's really interesting because people ask you out on a date, you can't really necessarily chat with them. So if you want to get into the specifics of that, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. So I think what we tried to do was find a group of people, which I didn't realize was a big group of people, who actually wanted to meet somebody in real life and actually use the app to potentially find, I don't want to say a partner, but find somebody to potentially connect with in real life.
Right.
And because Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge, I actually think Hinge did a great job because they learned from Tinder and Bumble. But when Tinder came out, they didn't know what they were doing, as far as they had this great idea, but it didn't really translate into people actually connecting. It just translated into mass swiping and mass adoption. So what we tried to do is, I was like, I'm a somewhat successful person in New York. I don't have time to just swipe and chat with a million people, and I don't want to do that.
Right.
I actually wanted to get to know people in person. And I thought, okay, what do I like? I think going on a first date for a coffee or a drink is perfect because I'm always going to pay. That's just who I am. And as I started to have dinner dates for first dates, and I did 2 of those a week, especially in New York, that adds up really quickly.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and it puts so much pressure on both me and the woman, because you could tell in the first 5 minutes if you're into somebody. And if you're not, you have to not convince yourself, but you have to motivate yourself to rally for the rest of the date and make that person just feel like, okay, let's just have a good time. It's not going to go anywhere. So what we wanted to do was make that first date simple, but make both people be on the same page and saying, I'm on this app to meet you in person.
Right.
I don't have time to waste. I'm busy. So what we do is you curate that first date. So you pick the drink, the time, and the place. You send that over to the person you're interested in, and they can accept, reject, or suggest a new date. And the 2 things that we really like is you can only have 1 date per day. So you put all your time and energy on one person at a time. And I think having that understanding makes both people feel so at ease when you're on a date, just knowing today he's only thinking about me. Today she's only thinking about me. And then the other thing we like is you could only chat with that person 12 hours before the date. So it might sound a little intimidating, but essentially it's a full day. If you have a date at 8 o'clock at night, your chat box opens at 8 o'clock in the morning. You could kind of feel each other out. Hey, Veronica, I'm really excited to see you tonight. Oh, me too. Like, what's the plan? We're going to meet here. And just keep it simple. But the key thing with that is when you meet on that first date, you have so much to talk about. It's so organic. I don't know anything about you. And I feel like those natural ice-breaking questions of where are you from? What do you do? Tell me about yourself. It starts off the interaction with such ease because you have so much to say.
Yeah.
And if you do that over the phone for a few weeks, when you meet that person,
plans can fall through.
Yeah,
There's excuses.
plans will fall through. You find reasons why you're not a good match, or you kind of know them and it's awkward because you don't really know them in person.
Yeah, and also texting and like chatting can get so misconstrued, and some people are just really bad texters, you know?
For
so you could
sure.
have like this amazing connection with somebody but have no idea because you're talking to them through a screen. But I like how you mentioned that you can only go on 1 date a night, because I've definitely been in situations where I have known that the person that I'm on the date with is going on a second date after me.
Yeah. And
Some people are like serial daters, like in one night. So, you know, they just try to get it all out. So,
yeah, and it's more common than people think.
Yeah.
I think from both sexes. I think men, again, have that swiping mentality of let me just go on 3 dates tonight, and whichever one sticks, it sticks. And then there's some women who, I don't want to generalize,
No,
but
it's okay.
some of them are just like, you know, I really just want a few free meals today. Let me go for some breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I'm not going to
And
debunk that.
yeah, I
That's
feel like-
definitely true.
Yeah, and I feel like both sexes just, if that's what you want to do, that's
Right.
great. I'm not going to say don't do that. But for our app, we just want to be a little bit more genuine and intentional.
Yeah, and I like that because even being on the app within the last 24 hours, I've already had people like requesting dates.
Oh,
and I'm like,
really?
wow, this is like,
That's awesome.
I know. So you have like a great audience already. It seems like it's really doing well.
Yeah, New York is definitely our biggest audience because I built the app for New Yorkers, because in New York, it's so easy to say, meet me at this bar at this time, Friday, because there's so many bars, there's so many people. In other cities, it's a little more challenging because you have to travel and there's not that density.
Yeah.
But also New York, people in New York are so confident and willing to just do
Meet
whatever.
whoever and
Yeah.
experience new things.
Yeah, and we're seeing it's just so beautiful where
Yeah.
people are just like, I'm confident enough to go meet you for a drink. And if it doesn't work out, whatever. And if it does, let's just continue to talk to each other.
Yeah, I think takes a lot to be someone who wants to live in New York. I think you have to be okay with being by yourself a lot and, you know, putting yourself out there. And I think it's great that people are just really open to meeting new people. But I just love how it's like the quick date. It's not like a long, drawn out dinner date or anything like too crazy that first time you meet, because I've been in situations where I've met people and I'm just like, I can't believe I have to spend another 2 hours with this person.
Yeah, so I want to get your perspective on that, being a woman in New York. How did you feel about dinner first dates, but also how did you feel about activity first dates?
So I moved here a month ago, so I'm very new to the city. But
welcome.
Thank you.
You're going to have the best year of your life.
Thanks. I'm excited. I was in DC prior, which I think the dating scene there definitely needs some help. You guys need to launch in DC for sure.
We're in DC.
Oh, you are now?
Yeah, so we're in 12 cities.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize you were in DC.
We're not in Alabama. I feel like that will be one of the last stops. Oh, yeah.
I would say
New
that
Orleans.
like growing up in that.
Sorry, Louisiana.
Yeah, growing up in that area, I feel like people find their partners really early on. So like that whole modern dating aspect like isn't necessarily captured there, at least from my standpoint. But I like that you guys are bringing back traditional dating in a sense, you know, like meeting new people and seeing, you know, who's a better fit for you and kind of like experimenting. And, you know, I think that's great.
Yeah, and it's funny you say bringing back traditional dating, because what I like to say is we're combining the old school with the new school.
Yeah.
And we're bringing back real dating. That's our tagline.
I love it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think people in big cities where there's that diverse culture, it actually shows someone what they want in a partner.
Yeah.
Because what I like to say is no date is a wasted date, because you learn what you want and don't want. And then when you formulate that in your head, you get closer and closer to your perfect person.
Right.
Yeah.
But as far as your question
Yeah,
goes,
I want to go back to my question. Yeah.
I think activity, because I'm a big foodie. Like I love to go to dinner, but I usually like feel like I need to be comfortable with this person first. Cause let's say we're going to eat pasta somewhere. I'm not going to want to be like slurping noodles in front of this person.
And speaking and getting to know them.
Yeah, it's just
tough.
awkward. It's like too much going on at once. And I mean, I think it's really important to be yourself on a first date. And if I were on a dinner date, I would literally be eating everything in sight. Like I would just be like going balls to the wall, and they would probably be like, what is she doing? Is
on
she
my
okay?
parents' first date, or was it their second date? My mom was eating a cheeseburger. My mom is just a messy eater. And I think the cheeseburger was falling all over the place, and she was picking it up and eating it. And my dad said to her, well, he said in his head, he said, if I wasn't going to marry this woman, I would just walk away right now. But he knew they had such a strong connection that he stayed. And he told her that, I guess, a few dates later.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, he was like, you are just a disgusting eater. And she was like, hey, that's me.
That's literally me. But, you know, I think no shame. I think it's so important to be yourself on a first date. And no matter that's eating really messy or maybe trauma dumping a little bit, you know,
Yeah.
you got to do your thing.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, is being as much of yourself as possible.
Right.
Because I think we always try and be the best person that we think the other person's gonna like. But why not be your best person? Because if you attract that person right away, then you're off to a great start, because they know the true you, and you don't have to fake anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, I know that you met your partner
Yes.
on a dating app.
I did.
And I know that she's been such an amazing part of this whole journey too. She actually interviewed me in LA, and she's fantastic, and Steve too. And I just had so much fun with them. But I love how you guys met on this dating app and were able to kind of continue that connection. So what do you think was the reason for that? Like what kept that going in like a different dating app?
Yeah, so while I was making First Rounds on Me, I was still using Hinge. I'm a big fan of Hinge. And that's why I never like to say that our app is better than other apps.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Right.
But I really liked Hinge. It was a great group of people on there, and they curate the app so well. And I used apps the way First Rounds on Me worked. So whenever I matched with somebody, I always asked them out right away. And if they didn't want to go out, I would just probably forget about them, because I didn't like going back into the connections and having somebody else fall into the abyss of conversations. So Hannah actually liked me, and I think it was the day after Halloween, and I went out on Halloween, so I was hungover. And I thought, wow, she's so beautiful, and she liked me. That's such a turn on that she's so confident.
Yeah.
Because, in my opinion, she's so beautiful. And for her to reach out to me, I was like, she doesn't need to reach out to anybody.
And you guys, she's literally like a model, like actually a model. She's so fantastic.
So she reached out to me and I said, listen, I think you're so beautiful. Your profile looks so interesting. I don't like to waste time on here. Yeah. I'd like to take you out. And to my amazing chagrin, she said, okay, I'm free tonight. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, I will see you at 8 o'clock. She said, I'm a vegan, so you have to pick a vegan spot. Yeah. So I said, all right, I'll see you at 8 o'clock tonight at this spot. And we met that night.
I think she told me it was Muchas Gracias.
Gracias Madre.
Muchas Gracias.
Yes, shout out to Gracias Madre.
Clearly, I'm not an LA resident, but I have been there before, and their margaritas are really good.
Very
Great
good.
Food.
Yes, and when we got there, it was kind of an aha moment for me because I was like, okay, this actually works. What I'm trying to build with First Rounds on Me actually works, because when I got there, we had so much to say, and we were talking for 3 hours, and our waiter just kept saying, you guys need to stop talking because you need to order food. And not only was I really connecting with her and falling in love with her so quickly, but also I kind of had this self-validation of my app. I said, wow, if people follow this process, it actually works. Mm-hmm. And I never planned on meeting somebody the way First Rounds on Me worked, but the fact that it did, it just made it so much more special.
Yeah, it kind of like launched this idea into fruition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, she's amazing. And she was telling me the story on, from her perspective. And
her perspective is probably different.
It's the same. It's the same way. She told me the same thing about the waiter. And I think that's really when you have a good connection with somebody, when you just like can't stop talking.
Exactly.
It's like you could just go on and on and on.
Exactly. And I feel like that's why if you talk too much through the phone, it's just bad.
Yeah. What do you have to talk about when you actually meet up in person?
What do you have to talk about? And there's a bunch of stats on it too, where each day that you spend talking on the phone, even if you do end up meeting in person, mm-hmm. your odds of connecting are pretty low.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that initial attraction is kind of dead by the point you actually meet up in person.
Yeah, the unknown, the energy, the pure adrenaline of the date. Yeah, it's cool. I
love that she liked you on Hinge, because I know so many women that refuse to like other people on Hinge.
Yeah, I mean, I think
that's like such a like assertive confidence energy that, I think other people should be doing that, putting themselves out there.
I never like to tell people how they should date. I just like to say what's worked for me and what I think. But I feel like if you take your shot, you have nothing to lose. Mm-hmm. Because if that person doesn't respond, then
so what?
You don't even know them, so who cares? And if they do respond, then that's great, because you come off confident and you come off like in a power position. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of women now want that power position. So I think the way the world's going and how much more powerful women are becoming, I would say use that power, because to the right guy, it could be really attractive. And for me, I loved it. I was like, I'm all for women empowerment. I'm all for you taking your shot, and I love it.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I love what your app does, because I'm going to be completely honest. There are so many like chats that I just have never responded to, because I think I just like start swiping and I'm like, okay, this is fun, la-di-da. And then they actually message me, and I'm like this with my own text messages. Like sometimes I literally just don't answer, and it just ends up, expiring or whatever it does on whichever app. But I like how you can't really like, you don't have a choice. Like you either have to go or decline the date. So it kind of like puts you in this position of having that accountability, which I think is good.
Yeah. So Steve always says this, because he never really liked to use apps. I think when they first came out, he used them. And he said he would always find himself late at night just swiping because there was nothing else to do.
That's what I do.
Yeah. And I think most people do that. Most people treat Bumble and Tinder and Hinge like Instagram. Yeah. Where it's that time of the day, you have to go on your phone and you do your swiping. Right. And I think they say that if you spend more than 20 minutes swiping on an app, after the 20 minutes, you are just randomly doing nothing. Yeah. But with First Rounds on Me, you have to be so intentional, because like you said, you're setting up a date with that person. So if they accept, you have to meet them. So you're not just going to swipe, because if you do that to the wrong person and they accept, you're like, oh shit, I don't want to meet this person. Why did I swipe? So yeah, I feel like you just pay a little bit extra attention when you're using our app, because it does set up an actual date.
Yeah, absolutely. And for your podcast, I think that's such a great way to market the app, because you're able to have these real-time conversations with people that are out in the dating world or who have had success stories, and bring them on and share their opinions on their own experience with dating. And I've never seen a dating app do that. So it was honestly like so genius.
Yeah, so I think Steve and I always had the podcast idea, but I feel like with anything, if you overthink it, then that's a bad strategy.
Yeah.
And I just said, let's just start a podcast. And it worked because we had an influencer budget in our marketing plan. And the influencer plan was just so bad. Like, we would pay influencers to create reels and post them, and it didn't really translate into anything tangible.
Right.
We didn't really get any downloads from it because it only works for certain brands.
Yeah.
So what we did was start the podcast, and we would ask that same influencer or that same person, similar to you, and say, do you want to come on our show? Because you get content from it, you get to promote yourself. And it kind of gave us a new avenue to get the right people to promote the app, but in a more personal way.
Yeah.
And even with your podcast, I love when people start podcasts, because I hate when the world says, oh, there's too many podcasts, there's too many dating apps, because it's them kind of just projecting their insecurities that they didn't do it. And if you just continue building an app, if you continue building a podcast, longevity is the game. So if you keep doing it, it will 100% work out.
Absolutely.
And you could 100% make a career of it.
Absolutely.
It's just, do you have that?
The drive.
Do you have that drive, and do you have that determination to just keep it going?
Yeah. I think it's all about consistency at the end of the day.
Exactly.
I remember before I started this, it seems like it's going to be this super easy process, right? Oh, you just have an hour conversation with somebody like every week and put it out there. No, it's actually like a ton of work. And I can't imagine what it's like building a dating app. I'm sure that there's so many logistics that go into it. But I told myself that I would, no matter what, be posting an episode every single week. No excuses, because I was listening to this YouTube video right before I started, and it was like how to start a podcast 101, but it actually turned into more of like a life lesson. And he was talking about the honeymoon stage of starting a podcast. And after that 2-month period, you know, before it's going to be like all butterflies and rainbows and this can be so much fun. I just launched my podcast. I'm bringing all these cool people. And then you're just like, wait, this is actually so much work. And that did happen. It happened later than 2 months, but I mean, I'm still enjoying the process so much, and the conversations I have with people are just like the best part of it. But it's a lot of work, you know, and it's like any other job. Just you have to be consistent and keep up with it.
Yeah. How many podcasts in are you?
So this is my 38th.
38th. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know who Chris Williamson is?
No.
Okay. So Chris Williamson is a really big podcaster, and he's kind of who we emulate to be like, because he's a really genuine guy. He doesn't talk about dating specifically. He talks about, it's called Modern Wisdom.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I've heard of it.
he is one of the top podcasters in the world right now, but he always shares his journey. And he says like the first 100 podcasts he ever made, nobody listened. And he told himself, just keep doing it, keep doing it. And now he has all these crazy stats, but I think it took him 3 years to get 100,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
Now he is at 1.1 million subscribers.
Wow.
And he got his last 100,000 in, I think, a week or a month or something.
Wow.
And he just said, literally, it was all about consistency. And he shows the first 50 podcasts, and it's just him at a desk with like a camera, no one listening. But he just kept persevering, and now he's huge.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I listen to like so many like smaller podcasts. I feel like there's so many podcasts that I need to listen to, but I like see these people start from literally just in their bedroom with a little plug-in mic in their computer, and now they have like super fans all over the world, and it's super cool to see, you know?
Yeah, and what's the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is, like you said, you're just meeting really cool people and getting to know them.
Absolutely.
And you're building your community, you're building your network.
I think it kind of gives a little bit more personality to the brand that you're building.
Yeah, so we're trying to just, obviously the app is the core. The app's going to lead the brand, it's going to make the revenue, and we want people to hopefully connect through the app. But what we're trying to do is create a whole brand that just is a twist on dating from, I don't want to say a guy's point of view, but from just a genuine, intentional perspective.
Right.
And the podcast, we have events, we have the app.
Yeah.
And I think it's just needed. And I think, like I said, Hinge is great, Bumble's great. I'm a huge Whitney Wolf fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're just trying to build that brand.
I love it. Have you guys done any live podcast events?
Yeah, we did a few. We did a live podcast in New York with, Allie from Finding Mr. Height.
Yeah.
So we did one with her
So
and
cool.
her partner Erica, and we're gonna have Erica on our podcast in LA.
That's
in a couple
amazing.
of weeks. It was really good. We did it at Musica in Midtown. It was mostly her crowd, and it was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did one at Soho House in LA with Dr. Taryn.
Oh, okay.
Do you know who that is?
No.
Yeah, so she was great. She's like a resilience coach.
I love that.
I think she's a neuroscientist, but she came out with a book on resiliency. And we talked about resiliency in dating, and it was amazing. But yeah, we were supposed to have one in New York with Sabrina Zohar and Liv Schreiber.
Oh, yeah. She has Hot and Social.
Yes.
Yeah. So she's actually like really good friends with one of my best friends that I was actually out in LA with.
Who's
so
that?
Lily Keller.
I don't know.
Yeah, she lived here in New York for a bit.
Okay.
But she actually put us in a group text. I want to say like
nice.
2 weeks ago, like trying to connect us. So
cool.
she's doing some amazing things. So
Yeah, so
that's a great person to collaborate with.
Yeah, we have like our list of people that we're trying to work with, and we're really, I think it's great because we're really getting to work with them, and they're seeing the trust in us.
Yeah.
So do you know Maren, Life of Maren NYC?
Yes.
So we actually partner with her on a bunch of stuff, and she has her podcast here that we sponsor.
Oh my gosh,
And
that's
then,
amazing.
do you know the girls from Mostly Balanced?
No.
So there's these two girls from Mostly Balanced. We partner with them. And then we just are starting a partnership with We Met at Acme, Lindsay.
That's amazing. She was just in DC.
Yeah.
One of my friends was on her panel.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I know. It looked like an incredible event. She's killing it.
Yeah, she's amazing. So we're hopefully going to be part of her We Met at Camp in upstate.
Oh my gosh.
And our dream is Tinks, obviously. She's the GOAT.
Absolutely.
But she's tough. She's tough to get to.
She's busy.
She's busy.
She's all over.
She's making a lot of money because she's big time.
I know. I just saw that she did that collaboration with Set Active here in New York. And I'm pretty sure she said that she would do the partnership if everybody got a book that went to the event. So
Nice.
I'm pretty sure they like almost like sold out her book, which is incredible. She's a smart businesswoman.
Yeah, I think she went to Stanford. So
yeah.
I think she is the perfect person and doing the perfect thing when it comes to being so smart, but then translating all that intelligence into dating and business.
I feel like she would be a great partner because I know she's really into martinis too.
Yeah.
First round's on me.
We should get her on together.
I know, right?
That'd be amazing.
Put her in the hot seat.
Yeah. But I
Come on,
know
Tinks.
we've gotten pretty close, but I do know maybe if she knew us personally, she'd hook us up.
Yeah.
But her rates are starting at 6 figures. So first rounds on me is not there yet.
It will be.
Soon.
We're manifesting.
We're manifesting. That's another LA thing you said.
Absolutely. I know. We just talked about manifesting, me and my mom. We did a little solo episode.
I actually believe in manifesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you manifested this app.
I actually manifested my whole life. And I think if you don't manifest, you're just going to be right because you just have no plan to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're manifesting, you're setting yourself up to start that journey of whatever you're manifesting. So I believe in it.
I believe in it too. I'm also trying to be so much more present.
Yeah.
And I've been saying this a lot in past episodes, but I think whenever you're a goal-oriented person, whenever you reach a certain goal, you're constantly fixated on what the next goal is. You don't even have time to celebrate like where you're currently at. So I'm trying to just like sit in that and
that's
embrace
awesome.
it.
And
But it's hard to do.
It's so hard to do. And I think there's so many cliches, but the cliche of enjoy the journey, especially when you're starting a business, a startup, it's so true because if you look at all these people, are you familiar with Barstool and like Dave Portnoy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he always talks about how it's so amazing where he's at and the company is this huge company.
Yeah.
But he loves and misses the days of when it was being built because he was so involved and it was seeing it grow. And I think if you get lost in the goal, once you hit the goal, then what?
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, I have to find a new goal, and you lose who you are in the journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I like love his pizza reviews, and I love that he's a Swiftie.
Me too. So I I watch every pizza review, and I
Uh-huh.
love that he's a Swiftie. And other than that, I know that sometimes he's controversial, but
Yeah.
I don't get lost up in that. I just follow pizza reviews and
Yeah. Same.
Swiftie stuff.
I'm the same way. I'm
Yeah.
the same way. But I want to ask you what your worst dating story is.
My worst
Putting you in the
dating
hot
story.
seat.
Okay. I have a few. My
A
worst.
few. Oh no.
My worst date. So, on a date, I always, no matter what, like to make that woman feel like she's being seen and having a great time.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I know instantly that it's going nowhere, I at least suck it up and say, okay, I'm just going to make her feel like she's going to have a great date, which I was talking to my friend about this the other day. It kind of could be a bad thing because you could lead somebody on. So you're putting a good guy in a tough spot.
Yeah.
Because I don't
Whining
wanna,
and dining.
Yeah, I don't want to be an asshole, but I also don't want the woman to think, oh, this is going great, and then I don't go on a second date with her.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right?
Guys have it rough.
Yeah, I mean, we have our issues too.
Yeah, like
We need
that's
some help.
tough. That's tough.
So when I first got to LA, I was on Hinge, and I matched with this girl, and we set up a date.
Mm-hmm.
Again, my whole method of not knowing too much about them. So I went on the date,
Yeah.
and when she showed up, I wouldn't say that I was catfished, but her and her pictures was the best version of her.
Mm.
And when she showed up, she was a little, I don't want to be rude, but a little bigger than her pictures.
Yeah.
And a lot of makeup.
Yeah.
Which, nothing wrong with makeup, but it was a lot.
Right.
So I was like, all right, let me just suck it up. I knew it wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
But I was like, let me just enjoy this time with her
Right.
and make her feel heard and seen. So I like to get to know people on a first date. I don't like to get to know them too much because I feel like that puts pressure on everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I ask a lot of deep questions just to get some type of emotional intelligence being built up.
Yeah. You want to have an intellectual conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So usually I just like to know their story. So I was like, listen, tell me who you are. I knew she had an accent. I was like, where are you from? Tell me your story.
Might as well put it all out on the table.
Yeah, let's put it all out there and just.
That's what I do.
Yeah, see, maybe there was a small % chance that her story was so amazing that it got me excited to go on a second date.
It canceled out her catfishing.
Exactly. So we're going through her story, and it's kind of how she ended up in America. So I think she started in the Ukraine or Russia somewhere, and she's going through the story of how she was sex trafficked as a kid. So I'm like, oh, this is deep. This is some deep stuff.
Oh my
so
gosh.
Now I'm just being compassionate. I'm like, okay, let me just let her vent. She starts to cry. So she's like, I got to Turkey and I was sex trafficked and I was a housemaid, and then I escaped and I got to America, and I was like, wow. And she's crying, and I'm like, this is intense first date.
She needs to write a book. Oh my gosh,
Right?
poor thing.
So me being me, I'm like, okay, let me just make this the best it could be. So the bill comes, and I'm like, oh, I'll pay for it. Like, this was amazing. I pay for the bill, and she goes, okay, do you want to go to this after party with me? So I should have said no, but the guilt of kind of abandoning her, I'd be like, I can't abandon her because she just told me about all these abandonment issues, about her being sex trafficked. I have to say yes. So she's like, let's go to my friend's after party at his apartment. I'm like, okay, let's do it. So we get an Uber. We head over to this random guy's house. We get in the house, and he's this hardcore Israeli guy, just speaking Hebrew, just really aggressive. And there's these two women who I didn't know who they were, and they were doing cocaine on the floor. And I was like, what is going on right now? So there's 5 of us there. I don't know anybody, obviously. Just go with her.
Mm-hmm.
And we're hanging out. They asked me if I want a drink. I'm like, sure, I'll have a drink. They asked me if I want to do drugs. I'm like, no, I don't do drugs. Thank you. So we go up on the roof, and now she gets into a fight with one of the other girls over a cigarette, and they start throwing things at each other. And I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like, this is not real life. So
Sounds
I'm like,
like
listen,
a movie.
I'm like, I have to go. It was getting late. I was like, I have to go. I have work tomorrow. It was really nice meeting you. I'm going to get an Uber.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's like, oh, I have to get out of here. Like, I'm going to fight with this girl. Can I come with you? And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, sure. So I get the Uber, and it's obviously going to my place. And I was like, okay, like, where do you live? I'm going to make another stop. And she's like, I think she did the drugs, and she was so drunk. She's like, I'm just going to come with you. I'm like, no, like, you have to go home. And she falls asleep, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not gonna just leave her in the Uber.
Yeah.
So she falls asleep on me, and she's sweating. She's sweating. She's hot, and this is during COVID. So I'm like, don't tell me that she's got COVID now too. So we get to my place, and I put her in my bed. Obviously, I don't do anything with her. She goes to sleep. I go to sleep. We wake up in the morning. My bed is just drenched in sweat. And I'm like, oh, God. I'm like, are you okay? Like, can I get you water? Can I get you a coffee? So I get her water, get her coffee, send her on her way. And then I got COVID.
No.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
It's bad, right?
Ever.
Yeah. And then
you really delivered.
She reached out again to go on a second date. And I was like, listen, you're a really nice person. I'm sure you're going to meet somebody. I got a lot going on in life. I don't think
she thought you guys bonded over that.
But it goes back to my problem. Because I was a good guy, maybe I led her on. And I also got myself in this sticky situation.
You were doing it for the plot.
For the plot. But now I have a good bad dating story, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, see? Did it for the plot. You have a good story to tell. No, I think that is probably one of the worst dating stories I've ever heard. It is very dramatic.
Yeah.
It sounds like it was a movie scene of them at the apartment throwing things at each other, fighting over cigarettes, people snorting
very
cocaine off
vividly.
The floor.
Yeah,
it is
I was scared at some points. I was like, I'm not really a fighter. I'm gonna have to fight this Israeli guy or break up a woman fight. Well, I don't know what's gonna happen here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad that everything has now worked out for you.
Yeah, and then when I met Hannah's the sweet soul, and I was like, there's gonna
complete
be
polar opposite.
No drama like that with her on our first date.
Oh, well, that's amazing.
Yes.
Well, do you have any last words of wisdom for anybody that's out there, single, maybe looking to mingle, anything like that?
Yeah, I would just say, take your shots. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. If you're a man or if you're a woman, if you're a certain age, everybody's time comes, and the more dates you go on and the more people you meet, the more you're going to find out and figure out what you want in a partner in life or the kind of person you want to connect with. So just go on as many dates as you can, meet as many people as you can, and don't get too upset if it doesn't work out, because each no is just another step forward into figuring out that journey, and it's going to lead you to the right person. So don't force it. Don't put too much pressure on it. Just take it easy. Enjoy it. Enjoy the moment. Enjoy the dates.
I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Doing it for the plot.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think just going with your intuition is huge.
Yeah. Intuition, emotion. That's why I think men need a little bit more emotional intelligence. And I feel like women are so sped up in that department. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think when women date older men, it kind of makes sense, because it takes us a little bit more time to get to our emotional intelligence. But yeah, emotions are the key.
I find that people that live in LA, the men there have very high emotional intelligence. All of my guy friends that are there, they're constantly so nurturing and understanding. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I feel like everybody's very in tune with their mind, body, spirit in LA. Well,
I like to say, I do agree, but in my opinion, it could be too soft. And I like to say, if you stay in New York too long, you get too aggressive and too hard.
Yeah.
If you stay in LA too long, you get too emotional and too soft.
Yeah.
But if you mix the two, I think it's a great combination where you because I feel like most women still want a not old school guy, but a guy who's still a protector in a way, but also a guy who's very highly emotional intelligent. And I feel like if you put the two together, that's the perfect combination.
You heard it here first. It's the perfect chemical reaction.
Yeah.
Well, I usually ask people this, but I might have to change the wording up a bit. So you're my third male guest. So love that.
That's awesome.
But I usually ask people so if you were to drink a martini, we're not going to say in a bikini, we'll say some swim trunks. Okay. Where would you be and what would you be drinking?
But why is it bad for a guy to drink a martini?
You can drink a martini.
Okay.
But I don't know if you want to be in a bikini.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't know about the
We
bikini
could throw you in a bikini.
Where would I be? Past experience or where I want to be doing this?
wherever in the world.
Okay, so
the world is your oyster.
I would want it to be in Paris, overlooking, not near the Eiffel Tower, because I feel like it would be too touristy.
Yeah.
But the Eiffel Tower would be in the distance.
Okay.
And I'm at a really nice speakeasy.
Okay.
Probably with Hannah.
Yes.
And just overlooking Paris.
Yeah.
Somewhere in Paris in a speakeasy.
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Maybe like on the river, like in like one of those dinner boat cruises, and you're like looking out and it's like glimmering.
Exactly.
But anyway.
But hopefully I won't be in a bikini.
Yeah.
If I am,
we won't throw you in one.
I'll take a picture and we'll send it to you to post somewhere.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that would be perfect. That would be A+ marketing. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And if you want to share with the audience how they can be friends, how they can download the app, anything like that.
Yes. So if you want to find the app, and if you're single, I hope you use it. It's First Rounds on Me or From on the App Store, FROME. Our Instagram is @FirstRoundsOnMe. And if you want to follow me, I'm @FirstRoundsOnJoe. I'm probably not as cool as Veronica, but if you want to give me a follow,
I beg to differ.
Please do.
Oh,
But thank you. This has been amazing, Veronica.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Joe. It was such a pleasure, and I'm so glad that I was able to get you in here while you were in New York.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye, guys. See you next week. Evaluating your relationships is the number one thing that should always be on your mind. Yeah. Creating boundaries is huge, and it's something that I'm still working through. I kind of want to like talk about the Bachelor franchise just for a second.
No one that goes in that show know who they are in that situation, because you've never been in it. I don't care how much deep work you've done, how much you read. If you've never been in a position like that, to be so vulnerable and open, you don't really know who you are until you're in it.
I moved to a content house, which is basically just a house full of other creators that were doing Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or whatever. And it was the first place